on this episode of Cuisine is Confidential. Join us in Paso Robles, California in the Onx Vineyards.
Models that look, they're just little bigger versions of the ones you see on the table. We mail a little box with, 5 of those nestled in some straw and with, a bunch of informational stuff. And then we have people, they'll link up their family and friends in different households all around, and we'll have one of our tasting hosts actually lead a guided tasting over Zoom or Google Hangouts.
That's interesting.
That is cool.
How can we bring the tasting room to people who can't make it to Paso?
And what's it called? What do you?
Onx at Home.
Onx at Home.
I like
It's
that.
just all available straight through our website.
Yeah.
But
Here we are in Onx Vineyard in Paso Robles. We're on a mule. And we're gonna go do some exploration of multiple vineyards.
different than what you're going to see around the rest of the property. First of all, just look at the vigor on that at the end row. You have something that's already grown to be about 8+ feet tall, and it's bushing out from both sides. Now, this is for a couple reasons. Number one, we're down again right near the creek bed here, so there's a lot more natural vigor in the property. Just in the soil, you can look at it and see that's a little more clay retaining. Look at the stuff right behind you there. You can just kick up a little bit of dust. So that's more silty clay-based soil. The other, this is Sauvignon Blanc. This is just a ridiculously vigorous variety. When I was out at Davis in the learning vineyard, they had one plant going just to see how long they could grow a cordon and have it still producing fruit. And at the point when I was there, it was still like 96 feet long and producing fruit all the way at the end.
I took a little petite.
Down the middle of the canopy, you can see there's actually 2 different curtains of green growth growing with a gap in the middle. The idea is we're basically splitting canes out from each side and creating twice as much space to create extra cluster growth. By creating more fruit, that gives the plant somewhere to actually send all of the sugar that the roots are generating. To me, Tempranillo is the one that always just looks like tired and sagged over at the end of the day. I don't know if it just struggles to maintain, turgor pressure and the water going through. Well, out of this block right now, most of what I sell from it actually goes to Juan Mercado, who you probably know from Realm up in Napa. He has a project he started down in Paso Robles doing more Spanish-inspired stuff. So we're one of his main Tempranillo sources for that.
Interesting.
It says high speed in the Grenache Blanc vineyard. So you said old vine, what's the age?
I say older because we have some Malbec vines that are only 5 years old, and these are about 12 years old.
Okay. Malbec.
So one thing, Malbec, just the stems always turn red and lignify a lot earlier. And it definitely has very branched clusters, so they go out in a lot of different directions. So, and then behind you guys, as you notice on the drive up here, we have a little fruit orchard going on.
Okay.
Super common occurrence for Zinfandel, and it actually helps to loosen up the clusters and make them less dense, less rot prone. So it works out really well. But with Zin, you get these long cylindrical clusters. If you look at the leaves themselves, the margins, the edges are really like toothy and jagged.
Right.
And even if you go to the back side of them and rub your thumb across it, you can even see a little bit of hair and fuzz growing on there. So that's called tomentum, and it's a normal part of grape leaves. But some varieties have a lot more hair than other varieties. I'd say the best example, there's one grape that's actually named that way because it's so hairy. It's called Barbera.
Barbera, there you go.
So barbarous is the Latin word for hairy, which is also where the word barbarian comes from, where the word barber comes from.
Oh.
So Barbera, as a grape, actually has the hairiest backside as well. So just super fuzzy and all.
I love it.
But Zinfandel is the closest we have in terms of that fuzziness and just what you get on the grapes themselves. So here we are at the top of our hill where we get the most wind every day in the vineyard. So this block is just naturally thinned by the wind. So if you go and kind of pull out some of these clusters and look at them, every year we tend to have a lot of shatter in this block. You'll have a lot of clusters that don't have a whole heck of a lot of grapes on it. And it doesn't look the sexiest, but it's great for quality because the fewer grapes, the more concentrated that character really becomes. This block, it's just so savory, intense. It just has this gigantic strength to it and just smoky naturally, without any fires around. Just produces super flavorful Syrah. Cut off half the fruit that the plant's through. See all these dried up clusters on the ground?
Right, so you already dropped the
So
fruit.
we've already cut 50% of the fruit off of these plants.
Really?
And
Wow.
look how big and prominent these
Yeah,
clusters
they're like
still are.
crazy.
Yeah.
Now, first of all, you can never make real assumptions or learnings based off of what I call the end rows. So the first and last couple plants in each row of vines they're not surrounded by competition for groundwater or anything. So especially the last plant in every row always looks like the clusters are 3 times as big and it's just super overgrown. But even as you get down into the row itself, you can still see there's just what looks like a lot of fruit on there.
Here we go.
All right, here we are.
Co-ferment with Viognier.
Oh.
So I think you guys who've taken your somm classes probably know some of the history of that process.
Right.
Wow.
So this is the best. You said it was the best from the best block.
So this is actually, it's from really close to here. So, I mean, the Viognier came out of this block that's right here.
Okay.
And the Syrah is just the little block of Syrah that you can see the hill coming down right towards us. Those rows that are right over there.
Right.
So that is our Estrella clone Syrah. And we happen to do the co-ferment between those two just because the blocks are so synergistic. They're right next to each other. And I didn't believe it. I've always heard this, before I started, that co-fermenting the Viognier in the ferment with the Syrah will actually make it more savory. And I never really believed it, even though I understood some of the science of, cofactors and how they function. But really, it made it taste like right out of the gate, like a Northern Rhone, just bacon, fat back, like super chewy, savory Syrah. I got a glass of it here for each of you guys.
It was quite the afternoon touring the vineyard with Jeff Strekas at Onx Vineyards in Paso Robles, California. Until next time, Elaine and Scott Harris from Cuisine is Confidential.